Hello everyone, welcome to the new session of Living World. So today we are going to have a session on the living world, and in this session we are going to have an introduction about the living world, right? Okay, so let us start the session. How wonderful is the living world? The wide range of living types is amazing, right? So on our earth, we are having a different varieties, okay? A wide range of the living organism that we see on our earth, right? And the extraordinary habitat in which we find living organism. Okay, so we find the living organism living in the different types of habitat. Okay, that could be a cold mountain, that could be a deciduous forest. We see organism in the ocean, seas, okay, freshwater lakes, desert or hot springs, and even in the this hot springs. Okay, hot springs is not very favorable for as a living habitat for any other organism, but yes, we find many organism in the hot spring as well as in the desert, right? Even in the cold mountains, the freeze glaciers, there also we see many organism living. So we can see we are having the different habitats, okay, and in the different habitats there are different uh, organism living there, right? So this is very unique things, and this occur on our earth only. The beauty of galloping horses, the migrating birds, the valley of flowers, or the attacking shark evoke the deep sense of wonder. So these are all like a wonder things, right? When we see the galloping horses in the meadows and the migratory birds, so unique thing, the birds migrate from one place to another in search of the food, in search of the breeding place, right? When the condition become very adverse and they cannot survive there at one place, so they migrate to another country, and everywhere every year they migrate from their own country to other country, right? And here they are having the sufficient amount of food material, they breed, and then they go back with their offsprings, okay? So these are all like wonders, right? When we see the valley of flowers, okay, valley of flowers, so many beautiful flowers are growing there, okay? When we see the shark in the sea, they attack to other organisms and they take them as a prey. So this all gives you a very wonder feeling, how diverse the organism, how the nature is so diverse, and how the organisms are having their different habitats, right? So this is the living world, right? Now, the ecological conflict and the cooperation among the members of population and among the populations of a community, or even the molecular traffic inside a cell, makes us deep reflect on what indeed is life, right? When we see so many ecological conflicts that is occurring in the environment, when we see the cooperation among the members of a population, right? So there are so many cooperations that is going on in a population means a group of one particular organism, that is called as a population. So the all the organism of a population, they are cooperating with each other, they are living together. Now when you have seen the herd of deer, okay, deer, they are moving one place to another in a group, right? And why they are in a group? Because they feel they are protected, because if they are not in a group, then they can be like attacked by the tigers or the lion, right? And they become the prey of them. So they, just for the protection, they are cooperating, they are living together in a herd, right? And moving also, they are moving in search of food, water, whatever the things, okay? So this things we see in the cooperation among the members of a population and among the populations of a community. What is the community? Community means the different types of organism living in one particular place, then it is called as a community. or even the molecular trafficking. Now, this we see in the nature, but let us see the things in the cells. How in a cell, the trafficking of the molecules or the biomolecules are going on, right? The molecular trafficking inside the cell make us deeply reflect on what indeed is alive. Okay. So when you see in a cell, you see the molecular trafficking. Molecular trafficking means the DNA material is present inside the nucleus, and RNA gets synthesized on the template of the DNA inside the nucleus. And this RNA comes out from the nucleus to the cytoplasm, by the process called, now it gets synthesized as a, okay, transcription process. And now the RNA which gets synthesized on the template of DNA comes out from the nuclear pore to the cytoplasm, and there the proteins are synthesized on the template of this RNA with the help of ribosomes, right? So this is the molecules that move from nucleus to the cytoplasm. In the same way, endoplasmic reticulum synthesize so many proteins, but that proteins are not functional. So to make them functional, they are transported to Golgi bodies. Now, inside the Golgi body, there are so many modifications are taking place, and they get modified. The protein get modified and becomes in a functional form. Okay. Now, from this Golgi body, the molecules are pinched off and they are given to their uh, destined places. They reach to their destined places. So how you now you can think about this, like in nature also you see so many different things that are feeling or giving you the feeling of like a wonder. And in the same way, inside the in the cell also we see so many different things like molecular trafficking. I just given one of the example. Now, this question has two implicit question within it. Okay, this is a question, and what indeed is alive? Now, it is having its again two questions within it. So let us see that. The first is a technical one and seeks answer to what living is as a opposed to the non-living. It means that there are clear cut asking about what is living things. Okay, it means that what is opposed to the non-living is going to be the living things, right? And the second is a philosophical one. The second one is if someone is asking what life is, so it is having the two perspective, the perspective of the technical term and the perspective of the philosophical one, and seeks answer to what the purpose of life is. So when you ask what life is on the basis of the philosophical thinking, then it means that what is the purpose of life, right? And when it is asked what life is, in that when you understand in a technical term, then it means that the thing that opposed to the non-living is the living. That is the technical thing. Okay. So as scientists, we shall not attempt answering the second question. We are studying the science. So we are talking it about the technical. Technically, we must give the answer of this. So we will try to reflect on what is living in a technical term, right? Now, if you look around, you will see a large variety of living organism. Okay. If we look around ourselves, then we see the large variety of living organism, and be it a potted plant, insects, birds, your pets, or other animals and plants. Okay. So if we see around us, what we find, we see a large variety of living organisms. Okay. Living around us, large variety of living organism, and that could be a potted plant. Okay, that organism, that could be a potted plant, that could be an insects, that could be a birds, your pets, okay, or other animals and plants that are living in the wild, right? So we see the different varieties of organism in our surroundings, and there are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye, but they are all around us. Even on our body at the present time, there are so many bacteria, right? In our pores of the hands also, so many bacteria. It seems that it is very clean, but there are some bacteria. Every time the food you are eating, you have kept your food in a very well container, but it is having the bacteria, it is having the fungal spores in it, right? And it's a very simple that when you keep it in a food material for 2 3 days, and when you open suddenly, then you see the fungus is growing inside. So when the box was closed, how this fungus get entered inside? It means that the fungus was already there. But when the food was kept and it is giving the environment of this is very suitable for the germination of the fungal spore, so it gives rise there. The fungus get arises there, right? So there are also several organisms that we cannot see, but still they are there. We cannot see with our naked eye, but still they are all present around us. So if you were to increase the area that you make observation in, the range of variety of organism that you see would increase. Now, if you are making a list of the organism that you see in your surrounding, and what you see, you you simply note down those organisms which are present in your surrounding. But if you are considering those organisms also which you are not able to see, but with the help of some aids like microscope, now you can see the organism that are present in the water, the organism that are present in your body parts, the organism that is present on your laptop, on your phone screen. Okay, many organism, microorganism are still attached to that. So then you see it is having a wide range of organisms that are present in our surroundings, right? If you consider those organisms also. Now, obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kind of living organism in it, right? So, when you visit a dense forest, suppose you are visiting a rainforest, okay, then what you see? The sunlight doesn't reaches to the surface bottom of the a forest. Why? Because there are so many strata of the trees. There are small size trees, then there are okay middle size trees, then there are large trees, then there are very large size trees, and then also there are some lianas which are reaching to the top of those much higher trees. Okay, so whole like your forest is covered with the green canopy. It is covered with the green canopy, and the light could not penetrate deep to the reach to the surface of the earth. And at the surface also you see so many plants are growing. Okay, and many organisms, insects you can find there, leeches you can find there, right? So if you visit a dense forest, you will probably see a much greater number and kind of living organism in it. And it's not easy to get enter inside the rainforest. It's not easy. Each different kind of plants, animals, or organism that you see represent a species. Okay. A kind of plant you see, a kind of animal you see in your surrounding, it represents a species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. Now today date, we are having this much organism. Till now we know about that. That is 1.7 to 1.8 million. Okay. So it is descripted now. This much amount of organism is having well description. Okay. And still there are so many organisms that has been present but has not been explored till date. So the scientists are studying every day, and they are adding the numbers of organism in this large number, that is 1.7 to 1.8 million, right? So this is the present biodiversity. If someone asks what is the biodiversity, then you can give this number, that this much amount of the organism, this much number of the species that are well described, that is 1.7 to 1.8 million. Now, this refers to the biodiversity or the number and the types of organism present on the earth. Now, till today, we are having 1.7 to 1.8 number of species that are described, and this is the biodiversity or the number and the types of organism that are present on our earth. Okay, so we should remember here that we explore new areas and even the old ones. New organisms are continuously being identified, right? So every year, every day, even new areas are being explored. The scientists are exploring those areas which has not been explored till date. They are exploring the organism if they are present there any, and even to the old areas also. Maybe they have missed out some of the organisms which were present there, so they are exploring in the old areas also, and new organisms are continuously being identified, and they are added to that 1.7 to 1.8 millions. Okay, so, as stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. Okay, so in our world, there are millions of plants and animals that are present in the world. And we know the plants and animals in our area by their local names. Okay, we are having different, by the local names, we identified them. Okay, so these local names would vary from place to place and even within a country. Okay, so if the people of any tribes, they are identifying any plants with a certain name that is a very local to their place only, and for a country we are having one English name. Okay, and then what about the other country? The other country will have that their own name to that particular plant only, right? So if we talk about that particular plant on any platform, okay, or any conference, suppose, then how the people will see that plant? They will say, no, this is not the name. We are following this particular organism as a name in our country with this. So there will be a lot of confusion, right? There will be a lot of confusion. So what to do that? So to avoid that confusion, every organism got its a particular scientific name. Every organism, whether it is a plant, whether it is an animals, or whether it is an any microorganism, it is having one specific name, scientific name, and that is followed by all the countries. That is followed by the all the countries. So suppose you went to the Japan for any like conference, a scientific conference is there, and you are talking about suppose mango plant you are talking about, then you will say the scientific name of that plant or tree or any other organism, and now they could able to understand because they are also following the same name, and the people from other countries has also visited, so they are also following the same name. Now they can easily understand that, okay, you are talking about the mango, you are talking about the neem as our director, right? So this is the purpose, to give a one particular name, right? Anyway, so these local names would vary from place to place and even within the country itself. So probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find a way and means to talk each other. So it will create a lot of confusion among the people. And to refer to organism we are talking about, we are talking about the same organism, but still we are not understanding, right? So hence there is a need to standardize the naming of the living organism such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. Okay, so there is a need to standardize the name. Every organism must have a standard name, must have a specific scientific name, and that should be followed by all over the world. And this process is called as nomenclature, right? So giving a particular scientific name or standard name to any organism, it is called as nomenclature. So obviously, nomenclature or the naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know that what organism the name is attached to. So you can give any organism a particular name on the basis of its characteristics. What characteristics it is having, the particular organism is having. And that could be done only when the organism is well described, correctly described. You studied about that organism and you know each and every characteristic of that organism, right? So the name is attached to the name given to them, that organism is according to their scientific name. So this is identification. You identify the organism on the basis of their characteristics. So identification is very, very important. Nomenclature is based upon their identification. So in order to facilitate the study, the number of scientists have established procedure to assign a scientific name to each known organism, right? So to have a specific to facilitate the study, the different scientists have established a procedure that followed a particular procedure to assign a scientific name to each organism. What is that procedure? This is acceptable to the biologists all over the world, and this procedure is followed by all the biologists. They are accepting those procedure and it is followed by them also. So the for plant, the scientific name are based on agreed principle and criteria, right? So for the plants, agreed principles and criteria which are provided in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. So what is the criteria? It is you can say the convention that is given by the organization that is called as International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. It will give a scientific name to all the plants. Okay, for all the plants. International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, ICBN. Now you may ask, how are animals names then? Animals taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. Okay. So they are also having their own convention, and the animal taxonomists, they follow the procedure that has been evolved as an International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. The scientific name is given to animals by this particular convention. The scientific name ensures that each organism has only one name. That particular name is not given to any other organism. So the name is very, very specific. Description of any organism should enable the people, if any part of the world, to arrive at the same name. So every people from the world, of any corner of the world, they are following the same procedure. If they are studying the same organism, then they should give that a name only, which is given by these two or convention, that is ICBN and ICZN, depending upon the plants or animals. Now, they also ensure that such a name has to be used for any other known organism. Hmm? So the names are given to these names are given to the organisms are very specific. That one particular name, if given to one organism, that it should not be used the same name to other organism. So these things are taken care while assigning or while giving a nomenclature to any particular organism, whether it is a plants or animals or even to the microorganisms. Biologists follow universally accepted principle to provide the scientific name to known organism. Now, each name has two components. So, the biologist is following whether it is a ICBN or ICZN. It gives you two names. One particular organism is having the two names. Okay, two component, in fact, you can say, not two name, two component in one name. So, the first component is known as the generic name and the Second one is known as the specific epithet. The first component of the name is known as the generic name, and the second component of the name is known as the specific epithet. The system of providing a name to the two component is called binomial nomenclature. Okay, so this giving a name or giving a nomenclature to any organism, okay, and it is having the two component, then it is known as binomial nomenclature. This naming system given by the Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, so this type of naming to any organism was first of all given by the Carolus Linnaeus, as is being practiced by the biologists and all over the world, and now it is followed to all over the world, right? So the binomial nomenclature was first given by the Carolus Linnaeus. This naming system using the two-word format was found convenient. Okay, so this is a very convenient method to give a name to any particular organism. So let us take an example of mango to understand the way of providing scientific name better way. Okay, so let us take an example of mango. So the scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica, right? So generic name is the Mangifera and the specific epithet is the indica. Okay, so let us see how it is a binomial name. In this name, Mangifera represent the genus or the generic name. Okay, Mangifera is the genus name and indica is a particular species or the specific epithet, right? Now, other universal rules of nomenclature are as follows. So there are certain other things also that must be followed along with the giving a two component name. Okay. So what are the other nomenclature rules? Biological names are generally in a Latin and written in italics. So always when it is written, it should be written in italics and it should be from the Latin origin. They are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. So whether you are of any country, you have to give the names in a Latin form. The first word in a biological name represent the genus. Okay, the first component of the biological name is the genus, while the second component denote the specific epithet that we have already seen. Third point, both the words in a biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. Okay, so when you write a scientific name with your hand, that is handwritten, then it should be underlined. Genus should be underlined and specific epithet should be underlined separately, right? And this shows why to underline, because it is handwritten. So when it is handwritten, it shows that it is Latin origin. But when it is a printed, it should be in a italics form. The first word denoting the genus start with the capital letter. Very, very important point, right? When you write the name of the genus, then it should be the genus first letter should be the in a capital form, and a specific epithet start with the small letter. So Mangifera indica, here the Mangifera is the genus and the M should be capital. Indica is the specific epithet or species and I should be small. Okay, so it can be illustrated with the example Mangifera indica. So here you can see the Mangi in Mangifera, M is capital, and in indica, I is small. Okay. Name of the author appear after the specific epithet, that is at the end of the biological name, and it is written in an abbreviated form. So Mangifera indica Lin, the third name, it gives the from where the scientific name has been originated. Okay, so Lin, and it showing the name of the author, Linnaeus. Okay, it indicate that the species was first described by the Linnaeus. Third name. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organism, it is necessary to devise some means to make the possible. Okay, so many organisms are there, so it's very difficult to give all the names to them. So this process is classification. Every organism you cannot study, but what you can do, you can classify the organisms, and then your study become quite easy. And on the basis of your classification, you can give the name to the organisms. Okay. So, classification is the process by which anything is grouped into the convenient categories based on some easy observable characters. Okay, so classification is the process of categorizing the organisms based on their characters. Very, very important. On the basis of characters, we are going to categorize the organism. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cats, and insects. Okay. When you are categorizing the insects, you will put all the insects there. Cats, different types of cats, dogs, right? So this is the basis of character. You can say that grouping of the organism. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. So on the basis why we are making a group, on which basis? On the basis of certain characteristics. So you are following certain characteristics, and on the basis of that you are giving name to the organism. So what image do you see when you think of a dog? When you think of a dog or you see a dog, what image comes in your mind? Obviously, each one of us will see dog and not the cats. Okay. So we know what type of organism we have to follow. So now if we were think to of Alsatians, then we know that we are thinking about it. And similarly, suppose we say the mammals, then you would of course think of animals with external ears and the body hairs. Dog, cat, giraffe, horse, lion. Okay, all these are mammals. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk of wheat, a picture in each of our mind will of wheat plant, not the rice or any other plant. Okay. So hence all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals, etc. are convenient categories we use to study organism. And the scientific terms of these categories is the taxa. Okay. So on the basis of the characteristic, we can make a group, and the scientific term. So you give the scientific term, you give the generic term. Okay. So every scientific term to these categories is called as taxa. So here you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at a very different level. Okay, plants also form a taxa, and wheat is also a taxa. So every category, whether it is a species, whether it is a genus, whether it is a family, whether it is a order, class, phylum, kingdom, every level of category is a taxa. So similarly, animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa, but you know that dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammals, and dog all represent the taxa at different level. Okay. So hence, based on characteristics, all living organism can be classified into the different taxa. Okay. So on the basis of characteristic, we are classifying all the organisms on the basis of on the different taxa. So this process of classification is known as taxonomy. When you are following the taxa, then you are process. This is the process of classifying organism. Okay. That is called as taxonomy. External and internal structure, along with the structure of a cell, development process, and ecological information of organism are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. So nowadays, in the modern taxonomic studies, what are the things that we are following? We are looking for the external morphology of plants and animals, external structure of plants and animals. We are also looking for the internal structure. What is the internal structure of the plants and animals? Along with the structure of cell, development process, and ecological information of the organisms that are very essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. Okay, so hence the classification, identification, characterization, and nomenclature are the process of the basis to taxonomy. So if you are doing the taxonomy, studying the taxonomy, then you must follow the characterization. Okay, characterization means you note down the characteristic of a particular organism. Identification, you identify the organism. You classify the organism, in which group you have to keep this particular organism. Okay, you can give the names according to their characteristics, the characteristic they are having. On the basis of that, you can give the name, that is the nomenclature. And this is the taxonomy. When you are following all these things, you are following the process of taxonomy. So taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interesting in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with the reference to their own use. Okay, so taxonomy is followed today's date, but it has been followed from the very past. Human beings have already very interested or keen to know more about the different types of organism, especially the one that is very useful to them. Okay, so in early days, human being needed to find some source of their basic need of the food. So when you know about the agriculture, then it started growing more and more plants, and those plants that are useful to them. Okay, so on the basis of the need of food, the clothing, the shelter. Okay, so hence the earliest classification were based on the use of the various organisms. So the animals are using, or the humans are using those plants for their benefit. They know about that. They know the characteristic of that. Okay, so useful. These are the some useful plant, and these are not useful to them. On the basis of this, okay, they are not looking on the varied the organism, that are every organism is useful. Okay, so they are not thinking in that perspective earlier, but yes, they are classifying, or you can say they are making a group of the organism that are useful to them and that are not useful to them. The one that is used by them as a source of food, as a source of shelter, or making clothes, so they are taking care of those organisms, they are knowing those organisms, right? So human beings were since long not only interesting in knowing more about the different kinds of organism and their diversities, but also relationship among them. So now the organisms are thinking, day by day they are thinking that there must be some other organism, must be some other plants and animals that could be benefit to us. Okay, so they started looking in that way, and they started uh, knowing the diversities, knowing the characteristic of the organism, and also they are establishing the relationship among the organism. So all these things has been started very early. So this branch of a study was referred to as systematics. When you build up the relationship between the organism, then that is called as systematics. Okay, the word systematic is derived from the Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organism. Okay, when there is a systematic arrangement of organism, you know that this is the relationship. These are A organism is having the relationship with the organisms, or B organism. Okay, you know the relationship. So that is called as systematics. Okay, and the Linnaeus first time published about this in a book that is called as Systema Naturae. Okay, and he talked about the systematics in his book. The scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. And systematics takes into an account evolutionary relationship among the organism. So earlier, when we were following the classification, we were talking about the identification, we are talking about the nomenclature, classification. But later, when the we started thinking about the relationship or the systematics, then we can understand the evolutionary relationship among the organism. Which organism has been evolved from the which organism? We can think about that with the building the relationship development among the organism, right? So this is all about this session. So thank you very much for attending this session. We will have another session to complete the rest of the topic of this chapter. Till then, thank you very much.